Now, there has been a 57% increase in Brits arrested for drug offences abroad. 3 recent high-profile cases include 33-year-old Sam Dorman from Derbyshire. He was sentenced to 40 years behind bars in Dubai after being found with £2,000 worth of cocaine. Charlotte May Lee, aged 21, was arrested in Sri Lanka after landing on a flight from Bangkok. She had 46 kilos of cannabis in her luggage. When you think of a 23 kg suitcase, the normal one, so that's 2 of them. And then just this week, 18-year-old Bella Cully from Birmingham was arrested in Georgia. Billingham, after officers had seized up to 12 kilos of marijuana and just over 2 kilos of hashish at the airport. Both girls now facing really heavy sentences in notorious jails for the crimes that they've been accused of. And Bella Cully's lawyer has claimed the teenager is not far from childhood. It's such a risk they take, Jada, doing this. I mean, obviously, we don't know the outcome of these cases.
I was about to say, I mean, you know, there have been instances where things have been planted without people's knowledge. I don't particularly know what's going to happen in these cases, but setting that aside, like the young man you mentioned who was actually convicted, you've got to be a moron to not know that if you import drugs into a country, you're going to get caught. And obviously, if you get caught, there's going to be a serious penalty. And, you know, a lot of them will go, oh, well, you know, I didn't have any money. This was an easy way to make money. What, so you can improve your life, but what you're going to do is wreck somebody else's life by bringing in Class A drugs, you know, to destroy somebody else's life. So I have zero sympathy, I have to say.
I mean, so the whole thing about being young, potentially being vulnerable...
I think there's lots of different reasons that people can do something as stupid as that. Pure greed and a total lack of moral code. People can be vulnerable and taken advantage of. Somebody really young can just think, wow, seems really easy. And
so do you have a level of sympathy?
Smoking. Well, for me, it's not just black and white, because I think people can be taken advantage of. I think people can be stupid. I think when you're young, you can make stupid mistakes.
But there's stupid mistakes like jumping over a stream that you might fall into and you're putting yourself at risk. But is it a stupid mistake to smuggle drugs to... I mean, is there a single 18-year-old in the world that doesn't know that smuggling drugs is illegal?
No, I know that, but I'm saying sometimes people can be so stupid that they think that they can get away with it and it's not really that bad. And, you know, and then somebody says, oh, it's great, don't worry. You know, there's people there, they'll know. I can see how somebody stupid enough could get talked into doing something. Listen, in no way am I condoning what they did. No, it's totally horrific. And if you are silly enough to try and do it, just think to yourself, I am going to get caught, and don't let anyone tell you that you'll be OK and but I do think we've got a real problem with young people seeing so much wealth and wanting instant gratification. You know, like when we were growing up, you might have somebody like over the hill and down the road who's really rich, and you go past their house and go, oh, I wonder if they've got a swimming pool. But now you can stay 6-7 hours on TikTok watching extreme wealth, fast
and you don't have it.
Your boyfriend turns up with 1,000 rose petals. And I think with these malleable young brains, you can get skewed and they go, let me just... I don't want to work. I don't want to get that. I just want this money really quickly. And I do think there is I don't think everybody that makes that kind of ridiculous mistake is a bad person. I think that you can be influenced
but they're doing
by
a bad thing. But they're doing a bad thing.
Of course.
Yeah,
I mean, without saying anyone that thinks I'm not saying that.
I suppose the thing that occurs to me, like, just from a very personal point of view, I've never been a risk taker like that at any age. And I mean, at a younger age, maybe you take more risks. But I would have had too many red flags in my head that would have stopped me at multiple times. I think if you're a different nature, then maybe... I mean, would you describe yourself as a risk...
naive. I mean, my sympathy is with the families of these people. I mean, they're facing like 15 years or lifetime in prison for something so stupid. Why on earth would they do that?
I know, if it was your kid. Oh, my God.
Could you imagine? I know.
But were you a risk taker?
Not really, no. I've always been quite sensible, most of the time.
Really? It's only when you get older. Well, you were more of a risk taker.
Yeah, look, I was a stupid idiot. You know, I've said this more, you know, so many times. As my dad says, really, your brain was blancmange until you were about 30.
Yeah, but you were putting yourself at risk.
But I was stupid.
Not others.
Yeah, but I'm just cautious of immediately judging all people for the same thing and saying these are just bad people. I think there are bad people that can take advantage of somebody that's young. I think the guy who's 30 who's taken, you know, he knows what he's doing. But, you know, there are kids that are told, oh, just slip it through, I'll put it in your bag. And I would... but you still have to have the punishment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're bad people.
Who do you
No, but going back to what you
thing.
said about seeing things on Instagram, I do agree with that, because I think when we were young, we didn't have that. We were just like in our own lives, and it was this, and I'm quite happy here, and this is, you know, what's going on in my life.
I quite like those pair of shoes, maybe next Christmas.
Yeah, and you save up for them and whatever, and, you know, there's a reward in getting them. But I think it was Jimmy Carr. Weirdly, it just popped up on my social media thing. And he was saying about happiness now, it's about... there's an equation, and it's about your quality of life minus your capacity for envy of others.
Yes.
Right.
So if you have this enormous amount of envy, that's going to eat into your quality of life. Whereas if you can get rid of that envy, you're much happier in your own situation.
There's a lot of envy in young people because they're seeing...
But because they're force-fed that from the age of about 10 now.
I was going to say, I also remember the story that my mum told me. This was a million years ago. She's not with us, unfortunately. But so she grew up in a little village in Scotland that was in the middle of nowhere. And there was like 100 council houses that were identical. And all the guys worked down the pit and all the women were cleaners. I mean, that's a terrible generalisation, but you know the kind of thing. And we used to talk about it, and I said to her once, I said, Mum, did you know that you were poor? And she said, no. Not at all.
No.
We had a great life. We had a great community. Everybody had the same house. You know, nobody had a garden. So she had no awareness of not having very much.
Well, Billy Connolly always used to talk about growing up in the tenements in Glasgow, and people would go, oh, the deprivation. And he said, I never felt deprivation. I loved it.
Yeah. So it's a community that made them feel that they had wealth in that sense.
There is no quick buck, kids. There is no shortcut. Shortcuts are short term.
Oh, there you go.
Auntie Nads.
Auntie Nadia.